Good afternoon. Again, my name is Ainsley Keller. I manage our sales and operations here for SK Global's North American office. And if you have been a part of this summer webinar series, we admit it's probably starting to get a little chilly wherever you live. This is our last event of the summer webinar series, and we are so grateful to everyone who has attended one or many of our sessions since middle of May. I'm grateful to the SK Global team and to the folks from Sign Up who are on the line today, and all of our partners who have shared content throughout this summer series. We would not have been able to pull this out and give valuable content to our market without all of you. So thankful to everyone who's joined the summer webinar series, and we will be doing these again. We've gotten great feedback from our partners and customers and prospects. We've heard from Microsoft employees that they've enjoyed these sessions. So we will be back after a break, and we'll keep providing webinar content to you in a separate series when it's probably even colder outside. I don't have a lot of content to share today, but I do want to remind everyone that we have been running these sessions since the middle of May, and all of these series episodes have been recorded. So all you need to do is go to sksoft.com, and there's a banner on our homepage that you can click on, or you can go to sksoft.com/events, and you can get any of our past recordings. Today's recording will be up there as well, and they're all on demand. So you can look at any of the future events. We'll also be using that page, of course, to promote events when we kick off the next webinar series. If you're watching any of the sessions on demand, or you see anything today and you have a question after today's event, feel free to send us an inquiry at sales@sksoft.com, and we will be happy to get back to you as soon as we can and get you an answer. Of course, today's session is being recorded. We know everyone always asks us that, so we're already in recording mode, and as an attendee of this session, you should get an automated email that will give you the link to the recording for the session.
Thank you, Ainsley. So in the beginning, Ainsley had mentioned that this has been a series of webinars. So this is just the latest one. So hopefully you guys have attended some of the other ones, and the Xflow piece is familiar to you. So we're just building off previous webinars. So today we're going to go over some new functionality that was added to one of the recent releases of Xflow called Invoice Automatic Coding. So we'll talk about exactly what that is. We'll review some of the setups, and then we're going to do a demo. So what is Invoice Automatic Coding? It is a function that's intended to help generate automatic coding of ledger invoices, so those cost invoices, while you're importing invoices or you're working in the import form. The suggestions of accounts and dimensions and amounts is based on historical data. Let me go on down, I think. Okay. The calculations are based on posted invoices only. And the invoices, what happens is the invoices are going to be inserted in a cluster that fit depending on the vendor, currency, amount range, and grouping fields. Results will be evaluated with points, and based on that will be prioritized. So what exactly are the points? So the points, or how are they calculated? The points will be calculated from how many days the ledger account was used. That'll be as a negative amount, and how often the ledger account was used. So that'll be a positive points. So if we look at this table down here, let's say the ledger account was last used 10 days ago. So that was -10, and it was used in total, ledger account and dimension combinations, in total of 7 times. So that one has a points of -3. If the ledger account was last used 4 days ago, and it has been used 34 times in total, it's going to have a points value of 30. So when the system is looking to prioritize these or code invoices, it's going to assign priority 1 to the line with 30 points, and priority 2 to the line with -3. Okay, so now we'll just go ahead and look at our setup. So we're going to jump into D365. Now the first thing you need to do is in feature management and system administration. So let's go over to here. And you're going to need to make sure that the Xflow automatic invoice coding is enabled. Okay, so if this is not enabled, you won't be able to utilize this feature. So just make sure that you have this enabled. And now we'll go into our Xflow setups. And you'll see here I have an automatic invoice coding menu option. So I'm going to click on this. And we're going to talk about these parameters up here first, the ones in the header row. So enabled, are we turning on automatic invoice coding? Pretty simple there. Are we going to run it at import? So when we're importing invoices in from ReadSoft Online or whatever source we're getting those from, are we going to run this coding at that time? If we're going to also enable it in the import form, so if a user is manually keying in invoices and we're going to let them see suggestions, we would go ahead and click enable in the import form. The priority and select, so what this one is, it's the value of how deep in priority will be shown as defaults when manually selecting coding invoices. So I have this set to 2, so I'll be able to see 2. I'm going to change this up to 5, and then I'd be seeing up to 5 options. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now I'm going to do a new one. So I'm going to click add line, and you'll see here I can do it for table, which is going to be for a specific vendor, group, which would be for a group of vendors, or all if I want to do it for all of my vendors. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it for one vendor. I'm going to pick my vendor account here and add in my currency. So we're going to talk a little bit about what all of these parameters mean, so you guys kind of have some understanding there. The day weight, this is going back to the points, the day weight and the reoccurrence weight. To go back to that points we were talking about before. So the day weight is the value that determines how much the number of days will affect the total points. The higher value will get lower points. So the longer time a ledger account was used, the greater the points will be. The reoccurrent weight, this value determines how much time used will affect the total points. Again, higher value gets higher points. So for example, if a specific vendor invoice, the last ledger account used should have the priority. The day weight, we'd set the day weight to 2 and the reoccurrence to 1. However, if the number of times a ledger account has been used should be your priority, not the last one that was used, we would set the day weight to 1 and the reoccurrence to 10. Okay. Now these settings can be changed whenever, and the function for compute will recalculate data the next time it is executed, the batch job. So we'll look at the batch job in just a second. For now, I'm just going to put both of these to the same, 5 and 5. My amount range, this is a percentage, and it's how much the invoice can be different in amounts before it'll choose a new cluster. So remember we said it's going to put these invoices in clusters. If the invoice amount fit within a range, it'll be placed in that cluster, otherwise a new cluster will be created. The suggest amount. So what this one would do is if I have coded an invoice, let's say before, and I'm using multiple lines, it is going to take a percentage of the weight of that line that I've used before and go ahead and apply that amount. Okay. Suggest VAT, so I can have 3 choices here. No, so VAT will not be set. Standard, it will be calculated using standard text, and computed, it'd be taken from the values from the selected suggestions, so values I've used in the past. I'm going to go ahead and scroll over. You'll see here I have active, so I'm going to say yes, activate this. I'll have computed, which is going to be the number of computed clusters related to this vendor, in this case a vendor, because I selected a vendor table there. This says 0 right now because I haven't actually run my computed automatic coding. The minimum, this one here is going to be, if I fill this in, it's going to be the minimum number of invoices connected to a cluster. And so for the system to suggest account coding, the number of invoices has to be greater than or equal to this. So for example, if I set this at 15, I have to have at least 15 invoices that are coded in the same account main account and ledger dimensions for it to be able to suggest those. I'm going to go ahead and set this to 0 because I don't think I have that many here. And the invoices, this is one that's going to be populated for me. It is going to be the number of invoices connected to the clusters that are created for the vendor setting. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And over here, I'll have some groupings. So I'm going to group mine by currency and reference. We don't have to, but this is just the way I'm going to do it today, is by reference. So that's a field we're using here to determine what coding to go through. Once I do that, I am going to run my batch job. So I'm going to compute automatic coding here. Now, same as the rest of the batch jobs you're running, to support Xflow, you can run this as batch processing. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to run it on demand. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. But normally you would set this up and set a recurrence there so it would run. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to compute that. And in just a minute, we should be able to see those results. Okay. So you see now it computed 3 different combinations there. And because my minimum was greater than 3, it was there. It's based off of 10 invoices total. So if I look at my computed here, you'll see the values it set. Now let me click off Ainsley's name really quickly. You can see that all of these lines are in green. So if the line is green, it means that the number of invoices in a cluster, and my clusters here, there's 3 clusters. If I could make that quit hovering there. I have 3 clusters based on my reference number here. So if the line is green, it basically, this this coding or the suggestions can be seen as active. And if it is not green, it would be not active. So this one looks not green now, but if I click off, you'll see it's actually green. But if something showed up here and wasn't in green, that means it hasn't been used enough based on my minimum date to suggest at time of import. If I look at my lines here, so let's look at, maybe we'll go ahead and look at lines here. We'll see that I have a couple of line numbers and I have a counter. So how many times has this been used? My ledger accounts and my dimensions. If I scroll to the right, we'll see my points. So there it's putting in my points and it's putting in the priority. So you'll see I have a priority 1 here, 2, and then 1. So that is because this time I only had 1 line on the invoice and this other time I had 2. And go back to the header. Now we'll look at Ainsley's cluster. So I'll go to lines here. And you'll see she has a bit more out there. So we have 4 that have gone to this main account and dimension combination. And she's had up to 3 lines. So if I scroll over here, you will see, again, the points and the priority. The percentage here, this is the weight based on how we originally coded it. So this top one, because there was only 1 line, only has 100%, but the others that have multiple lines, you'll see that they're using a percentage factor. Okay, so now we will go ahead and look at this invoice in our Xflow import from all form. So if I were starting from ReadSoft and I had this turned on and had the run it import, it would run this based on the import as long as in that import field, in my situation anyway, I'm capturing the reference person or reference, whatever I'm using reference for. Reference is not required, but since that's how I'm running it, that's how it would work in my system today. So let's go into Xflow. And I'm going to go to my invoices. And I'm going to find mine that I have out here already. So I have Blue Sky out here. I'm going to go ahead here and click Edit. And give it just a minute to open that. Okay, so we'll see here I have a reference. Let me change this reference to Ainsley based off of what we saw in our calculations. And now up here in options, I have this option to get invoice coding or select. I'm going to click get invoice coding. and you'll see, hopefully in a second, it's going to change my lines. So based on the priority, it's saying, okay, here's what I think this invoice should be coded to. I also have a little flashlight here, so I can look it up, say, okay, is that really where it should be coded to? No, I want to do 3 different lines on this one. So I'm going to select 3 lines, click replace, and you'll see here it has those 3 lines now with the different values, and that it has the lines total the header. So it used those fixed weight, or that percentage of the weight, when it did import it, what I did tell it to replace those lines. So now I'm just going to go ahead and change to mine here, CT Ash. And then if I click Get Invoice Coding, we'll see the lines will change again. So we have 3 down there now. I'll go ahead and click Options, Get Invoice Coding. And we'll see here I'm going to Office Supplies. Again, I still have the flashlight here. I can click on that. And let's say I want to take it to these 2 lines. I'm going to click Replace. And you'll see here I have miscellaneous expense, and my other line is going to office supplies expense. So used on the clusters that have been created off of past invoices I've had with Blue Sky with the reference of Tina Ash is how it's coming up with these main accounts and dimension combinations. Now again, this is based off of posted invoices. So right now, this invoice would not be, if I changed it, it would not be added to my calculations. It's not going to be until this invoice is fully approved and posted that it will be included in the future calculations. Okay, so that is all I had. Ainsley, do we have any questions? So the question was about, let me see if I can find it now, was about how you can perform allocations at the invoice level per vendor. Right, so this way you can do this, but this is based off of trends, right? So invoices you have posted. You also in Xflow, if you already know the allocation and you don't need to see 10 invoices or whatever come in to figure that out, you also have posting proposals. So you can either use the posting proposal or the advanced. And here, if I look at Raven Supplies, I'm taking 25% of the total invoice amount to this main account and dimension combination. So if you already know it, you can set that up using your posting profiles or posting proposals, sorry. Or if you don't, then you can use the automatic invoice coding that's going to determine those trends and the clusters.
Yep, and just as we mentioned, because I know we're coming up on the hour here, we had mentioned before, this is our last presentation in a series that Tina and the group have been doing on AP automation since the beginning or middle of May. So we're kind of stepping through one feature and item of the Xflow product, but the whole series of webinars that we've been doing across the summer, we've got 5 or 6 other sessions out there covering the Xflow and ReadSoft solutions that give you that holistic AP automation approach, and you can find those in the on-demand session of our website.